There we go, now it's recording. Okay. So, when was the disability diagnosed?
She was born at night. The next morning when the pediatrician came in.
So, the next morning after she was born?
Yes.
Okay. And how were you supported by teachers or other professionals following the diagnosis?
Let's see. She was born in November. I can't remember who contacted who as far as schooling, but she didn't get in because of the holiday, and then it was Thanksgiving, and they actually wanted to wait for the genetic testing to come back. Mm-hmm. So it was actually January or February before she actually started the early intervention program.
Okay, so she went to early intervention program?
Yes.
And so how did they support you? Like, what did they do to help?
They came to the house. This is where I got to put my thinking cap on. They came to the house, I don't remember, was it once a week or once a month? Shoot.
I think early on they usually do once a week.
Once a week or was it?
Like in the very beginning, and then they space them
So
out.
then okay, you're right. It was once a week, and it was she was like a physical therapist, occupational therapist, kind of like all rolled in one. And she brought me a book. I still have it if you want to look at it. I mean, it's probably outdated, and it kind of gave you the development of a normal child, and then of somebody that was mentally delayed. And then it kind of gave a bell curve, and so we could follow her progress as far as like where she was falling on the bell curve, as well as it gave us not tools or trades, but
like milestones.
well, no, things to do to help develop the fine motor, the gross motor, the cognitive and the verbal and stuff. So there were different things that she would bring out to play, then she would let follow that I would do for the rest of the week to follow through. Then when she'd come back, then she'd see how much Lindsay picked up, and then I think when she turned 2, that's when she went to once a month in home, and then she went. Was it once a month? Half a day. At the building, so they had transportation that come and pick her up. No, I took her at 2. It was at 3 when they started to bus her.
And where was the?
It was called. It was in Farmington, and it was called. I think it's Wing Lake now, but it was called. So I said I got to put my thinking cap on.
That's okay if you don't remember the name of it, but so it was in Farmington, so it's relatively close. Mm-hmm. Were you guys living here at the time?
No, we were living in Livonia, but on the border of Livonia and Farmington. So we were in Farmington school districts.
Okay.
And this building, it was all special ed. Early intervention.
Early intervention. So it's kind of like their RESA building, like.
Yeah, I don't know if they still have those now or not, but this was all.
Well, we have one in Kalamazoo. It's K-RESA for Kalamazoo RESA, but.
And it had all the disabilities.
Right.
Yeah, and so they would have the room that was a physical therapy room. They would have your occupational therapy, all the different rooms. And then they had a TMI, EMI. I don't know if they had EI. Because it's so long ago.
Right.
Now. But yeah.
Okay, what were some special challenges related to supporting your family member with a disability? So maybe when you first, so maybe like when she was younger versus when she was in, high school versus now, or?
I think the most difficult was the communication. Not being able to understand her, then she would get frustrated because she couldn't, get us to understand what she was trying to say.
Right.
Because her biggest hurdle is vocabulary.
And communicating.
Yeah. And so then she'd get frustrated and she would act out on that. To some people, it's still that way. But, I mean, the others of us that have been around her so much can figure out what she's trying to say. And there's times I don't understand, and I'll say to Nick or Lindsay or Amanda, I'll say, what did she say? And they knew it.
Right.
But she's Lindsay, I think, has been able to do better, not getting frustrated with us not understanding. We just have her try to, either write it or, sound it out slower or help us, to understand her. I mean, we still have hard times. There's times, and but she doesn't get us frustrated,
as easily.
Yeah, as easily.
How would you characterize your relationship with the school that Lindsay attended? And with her teachers or administrators or like physical therapists or, any therapist you saw?
I had great experiences. Oakland County has great special ed, and we've been in 4 different school districts, from different moves and stuff, and they've all been accommodating. Because she was actually labeled EMI, but we had her in a TMI program, and they had no problems with that. As far as getting all the services, speech therapy, physical therapy, had no problems getting them for her.
You didn't have any problem with communication between either her teacher or specialist and you?
No, none.
Okay.
No.
All right. And how are you preparing for Lindsay's future? As far as, do you think she'll ever move out of the house? Do you think that she's going to stay working where she does now? Or, I don't know. What do you
I think she's going to, as far as work, where she is, she's happy there. She likes it. She'll stay there if they have an opening where they can provide employment for her outside of there, and but she would still go to the shelter. They would bus her, bring her back. So she just likes that routine. Stays with her familiar friends and family. Her goal is to move out, so we will be working on that. Have been working on that. I'm in not a hurry, obviously, but that is her goal, to live on her own.
And what does she do at the shelter? Like, what is she doing right now there when she works?
They call it piecework. So it depends on what is brought in. The job that I'm aware of, it's those plastic spray bottles. They come in and they have to put the tops on them, and then they have to box them. I don't know, a dozen to a box, 2 dozen to a box, and seal them. But there's other companies that have also had small jobs that come in that they do. Sometimes it's parts to things, but this is basically assembling. And when it's piecework, it's because that you could have 20 to 30
individuals.
I was trying to think of the word you call them now. Clients is what they're referred to there.
Okay.
So some work faster than others. Some and so it's the shelter. New Horizon gets paid for the whole. Say it's a job. They have to split it according to, so she could have a check for $2, she could have a check for 36 cents, she could have a check for $20. Depends on, how many days she was there and how much work they did.
What the job was?
She likes it. She didn't like going out. She preferred staying in.
Staying in that building versus like having an opportunity to like maybe bag groceries at a grocery store with support if she needed it.
Yeah.
So she preferred to stay in that small group.
Yes. Yeah. That, not that I had a problem with it, but I hear that's a problem trying to find support.
I forget what they call them, but
for somebody,
job coaches.
Yeah, yeah, and that comes down to the funding. What the state has available and what they can afford, and they try to give those jobs to the higher independent clients that don't need a job coach. Or if somebody needs a job coach, they're going to find a job where they can have one coach and 5
I was going to
clients.
say, yeah, at Kroger there was one job coach per like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But there was only really 2 that really needed them, but there was, they're there to help support the other ones as well.
Yeah.
So, in what ways has the school been supportive or unsupportive in helping you prepare for your daughter's future?
Well, every year they have the IEPCs, and in that is when we set our goals. And they had their goals that they thought were realistic for her to every year, and I could add mine. And I mean, they were just very supportive because they provided, you know, all the service. I did take her out when she was probably about 4 or 5, till she was, Nick was born, so she was 10, about 10, 11. So for about 5, 6 years, we went twice a week down to Wayne State for speech therapy through the speech and language department graduate they were graduates, so it was 2 semesters a year, and it was really inexpensive. And they had like a 2A mirror where I could sit and watch, and they did their speech therapy through play. And they had this whole play area, and they would shoot. It was, I think she always had a female. Then that was the only downside, is each semester she would have a different student.
Right.
You know,
a different therapist working
right.
with her.
So, but that's the only thing I did above and beyond. Even though she got speech therapy at school, it wasn't a one-on-one. It was a group setting. And then early on, the PPI, no, it started out PPI, early intervention, PPI, TMI, they did sign language. You know,
Okay.
a lot of them use sign language in the younger PPI program.
Did she ever use like an icon board for any part time, where it's basically a board with Velcro and they stick the icon on there that they want? So say they wanted something drink, she would stick the drink one on there.
Boy, I don't know. If they did, that would have been in the PPI.
Okay. It might be a newer thing that they're doing nowadays versus back then, but I know that's one of the ways that they use to communicate with someone who's not real vocal about what they want.
Yeah, and I opted to put her up in the TMI because I wanted her to have the peers that she would role model and push her versus being held back.
Right.
In the, wait, which is higher TMI? Yeah, in the EMI. It was just my way of getting her to push a little further.
Now, does Troy, or she went to Farmington all of her schooling? Or did she?
No, because then we moved to Royal Oak.
Okay. So was she, I guess, in any of her schooling, was she in self-contained room and then joined them for, I guess you'd say, cooking or whatnot, like their specials or electives, or was she in a gen ed classroom in elementary? Like how? I know it was a while ago, so they didn't really push for inclusion.
But they didn't do that. And then full inclusion came in somewhere where she was in school. I want to say we were in Royal Oak. She was done with TMI, so in junior high. I don't think they did anything in elementary school, but in junior high, they would go and they would have a gym class, and they would be in with the regular...
typically developing.
Right. And they did have, I don't remember a cooking class, but like those like your gym, because I do remember she swam through gym. She had a couple classes, but then other than that, all her others was just in her self-contained class, which for me, I think worked best for her.
Now, we're in her class, I don't know if you remember, but like, do you remember what other disabilities were in there with her? Like, do you know if there was like anyone with autism in there with her?
No.
Or was it all?
No, because there's a program out there specifically for autism, and I think anybody in our area always went to the autism. It was always TMI. There might have been a few EMIs, and I'm sure those things have even changed since and I don't think we had EIs. They had their own classroom. And that was just basically the TMIs.
So basically everyone but autism was kind of...
And EI had its own program
as
well.
Yeah, it still had its own program too. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some words of advice you might give a new teacher when interacting with parents and children with disabilities? Like maybe as far as communication or attitude and approaching subjects that might be going on